Hi everyone, my name is Chelsea. Welcome to Little Mountain Ranch. I'm really happy to have you here with us today. Today we have all kinds of stuff going on. First thing I'm going to do is take all of our pumpkin heads down from our Halloween celebrations down and give them to the pigs and the chickens. And then we need to go shopping in the root cellar for all of the things that I need to make what we're going to be making for dinner tonight. And while we're outside, I'll take you down and show you all of the work that we got done dismantling that cattle sorting arena that I was sharing with you in my last video that we are going to be turning into, or the space anyway, we're prepping to put up a large skating rink slash slide riding arena for our kids. I'm really happy because when I was going through all my menu stuff this morning and figuring out what I needed to make today, Dan reminded me that he got hot dogs for the kids so that we can have a weenie roast outside where we're going to be burning all of the wood that we can't repurpose for other things from the riding arena, which is great. So that makes lunch super easy. For supper, I'm going to make Ukrainian Borscht. And I would really encourage you, if you have never had borscht before, give this recipe a try because it is probably hands down my favorite soup, especially winter soup. It's so hearty and it's also really cheap to make.
Lift that bucket high enough to dump it over the fence.
This chicken coop was built somewhere between 1920 and 1930, similar to the cabin I showed you the other day. And it is also chinked with mud, as you can see. I love this chicken coop so much. So there's the indoor coop here, and then they have the outdoor run here that's covered. So in the wintertime, they can still come and be outside and be getting all of the fresh air without being in the snow. Chickens do not like snow very much at all. This is what the coop looks like from the outside. The other thing that I want to make today is that same bread that I made in the last video, except this time I want to make it with cinnamon and brown sugar.
Feed them in the trough.
Checking the weather forecast this time of year, it's always smart because then you kind of know what's coming and you can prepare for it, especially on the farm with animals. But it is also a little bit discouraging because you're pretty much guaranteed it's just going to get colder and colder and colder. And today was no exception. Instead of the minus 16 that we were going to be getting, it is now saying minus 21 by Thursday with snow. So normally we get a cold snap, sometimes really cold in November, usually for about a week, and then it warms up a bit again, and then we start getting lots of snow in December. But this year it looks like we're getting snow with that cold, which is kind of unfortunate because that means that the snow is going to stick. Dan's holding out hope that we're still going to get some warm weather, and if that happens, then maybe it'll melt off. I'm not as hopeful and optimistic as he is. Okay, I should show you from back here where we're at. Really wish in hindsight I'd done a time lapse of this because it would have been really neat to see it coming down and then the rink, whoops, and then the rink going up. So this is where we're at. When you saw us pulling out the posts the other day, that was this area here. So all of those are out now, and the rest of the wood has come off of all of this. And by the end of today, all of these posts will be out. And our plan is a little bit later to go through and sort all of this wood. My pantry and our stairs going upstairs are all built out of this. This is fir. And we think this riding arena was probably built maybe back in the late 70s, early 80s or so. So this isn't super old wood, but it still has some really cool character. Oh, I'll show you the chunk that we're going to use for the coffee table. We'll probably bring this up later on today and just try it out in the living room and see if we need to cut it down at all, because it doesn't look really big down here, but it probably will look humongous in the living room. This is an old gate, and this is what we want to turn into the coffee table, and I think it's just going to look so beautiful. One of the things that we have to do by the end of today, oh, I can see Dan's been doing it already, is to fill all of the holes that we've been pulling these posts out because our cows are in this pen, and if they came running along this area, oh yeah, he's filled in all of these holes already. Oh, that's fantastic. I'll try to give you an example of a hole that he hasn't yet filled. Here's a good one. So here's a good example of one of the holes. If a horse or a cow came running along here and didn't see this, they could actually break their leg. So these holes being filled in is super important. Just today, he has pulled out all of these posts already, and I honestly don't even think we'd have one of these out at this point without this machine. It's an old one, but it has been so good to us. And even though it's looking less promising that we'll actually get the walls completely put up for this project, it does look like we might be able to get the actual rink part in. Hello, Albus. You already had your milk this morning, mister. Hi. How are you? You're such a sweet boy. Okay, now to the root cellar and then back inside to get this soup going. Do you remember a couple of weeks ago when we went to my friend's farm and brought Cherry, our sheep, and then we picked up a rabbit, but we were also hoping to get a couple of cats, barn cats, and the kids weren't able to catch them. My friend messaged me yesterday and said that she has 2 super friendly kittens that the kids can have. Sorry, it's really dark in here. There we go. And she and her partner's gonna bring them by, oh, this is really tight, this week. So the kids are really excited about that. Oh, look at how humid it is in here. That humidity on the lens is just from the humidity in this root cellar. So that's good. It needs to be high humidity in here. So we need a cabbage. So we'll grab a cabbage out of the sand. That is a huge cabbage. Okay, I wanted some red beets. Aha, there we go. And some more of our teeny tiny carrots. Okay, we're back up at the house now. Got this big cabbage. It's looking a little worse for wear, but I'm just gonna cut those bad spots off. When I store them in my root cellar, the way that I did them this year, and it actually worked quite well, was to keep the root ball on and put it in a little bit of damp sand. And that seems to work really well. The issue that I was having earlier was just that it was too warm to keep the cabbages good in the root cellar, but now that it's cooled down, they are doing well. So let's peel off everything on here that is not looking great. And then get this all chopped up. I did enlist some help to prepare all of the veggies. So we have grated carrots and grated beets and some peeled beets. We have a couple of different colors of beets that are all peeled, and I'll be chopping these up. In my borscht, I like chopped vegetables and my husband likes grated, so I put both in and then we're both happy. We have a whole bunch of chopped onion here. Okay, so I'm just chopping off all the bad bits, and this will just go down to the pigs. The nice thing is not much gets wasted here, because if we don't eat it, either the chickens or the pigs will. This is still really nice and tight. Oh, core is strong. There we go. If you haven't tried borscht before, I would really recommend that you give it a try, because it is really cheap and extremely nutritious, and you can make a large batch and then freeze it. It freezes really well. I did try canning it last year. Don't recommend doing that. It was not good. It was edible, but barely. So most of that I actually opened up a couple of months ago and gave the rest to the pigs, because it was not good, but it does freeze really well. So what I'm going to do here is chop all of this up finely, And my food processor bit the dust the other day, so I am stuck chopping by hand until I get a new one. Fortunately, cabbage is very easy to chop. So I'm going to chop this up, stick this in a separate bowl, and just set it aside because it's actually the last ingredient that we'll add. Our kitchen was built back when this house was built in the early 1970s, and when we bought it, the kitchen hadn't been updated or changed or anything like that, and the cupboards themselves were actually just plywood cupboards that had been stained. So all we did is, this had a big, one of those big counters. You can actually see, I'll show you the ceiling here. You can see the spot where the cupboard hung down there. So there was a cupboard that hung down right here. So the kitchen itself was just this little space here. And the stove was over there and the fridge was over here. And so all we did was we took all the cupboards off, brought them down to the shop, and just brad nailed on this trim onto it, painted them all, put some new hardware on them. This counter here, the wooden counter, we bought this at, where did we buy it? At Home Hardware, I think it was, just a prefab countertop. And we took the old 1970s one that's on the rest of my kitchen off and just turned the whole entire thing, lifted it off the ground and turned it and set it over here. And it's opened everything up so well and gives me so much more workspace. And I love it so much. On the floor there was laminate that had definitely seen better days. So Dan and I just put down this lino, I don't know when that was, maybe 6 months ago or so now, just to kind of clean it up and make it easy for me to clean. So this kitchen upgrade, to have it looking like this, really didn't cost us very much at all. The flooring was the most expensive part, and this countertop I think was somewhere around, was this around $500, hun? This countertop? I feel like it was somewhere around there, or maybe a little bit less.
Maybe 300?
Yeah, somewhere between 300 and 500. Dan just came in to say that the fire is going for the hot dog roast, so I just want to get this assembled very quickly. What should I do first? Let's do this first. Let's get the onions going in here. So we're going to put a couple glugs of olive oil and our onions, and we're going to fry up our onions and our carrots and our beets in here. I might end up having to use 2 pots because this is a lot of prepared vegetables. So we're just going to get these onions frying until they are translucent. And then I will add all of the grated veggies, and we also have a bunch of chopped potatoes here that we're going to throw in. I'm going to wash up these beets and get them all chopped up. Those onions are smelling good. I don't know what was going on with my onions this year, but they are so strong. Oh my goodness, beets are my very favorite root vegetable. Look at how beautiful that is. It's one of the things that I love about this soup is how beautifully colored it is, because of course the beetroot turns everything red. Oh man, look at that. Wow, this is beautiful. What else do you need? The buns are there. We also need some stock. So this is chicken stock, and I have 2 containers of tomato paste that will go in as well. This is the basket that we use for shopping down in the pantry. So once it gets emptied out, then it goes back down there, so we have something to carry everything up with. Okay, into this, we're going to add our beet and our carrot. Celery, so this is just celery from the freezer. Actually, why not? We'll just throw the whole thing in there. This is going to be a huge batch of borscht. Throw all of our potatoes in. And then into this, our soup stock or our chicken stock. We're having a weenie roast outside. You want? There's pizza in the fridge too from last night. In there. Look at that. Looks so beautiful. I'm just going to cook this down until all the veggies are soft, and then we will add in all of our cabbage and our seasonings. But in the meantime, we are gonna go down and have some hot dogs, and I'll show you where Dan got to with pulling all those posts out. It's hard to believe that this is going to be all covered in snow in the next couple of days. Hey, Frederick. How you doing? Hi, bud. Oh, he's such a sweet boy. Oh, good scratch. This is Ember, our Jersey sweet girl. Nope, that one's good.
Hot dog. Thanks, Spring.
Yeah?
Really for
Thank you. We eat homemade a lot of the time, but we also eat hot dogs and Wonder Buns. It's all about balance, right?
Place a monopoly on this bad.
Yeah.
The free chain.
I think that's going to look beautiful. I have a feeling it's going to be very large.
Yeah, I think it's bigger than.
Okay, we have it in, and I know it looks huge, but this is what we actually want. We play lots of board games in our house, and so to be able to have a huge table where everyone could sit on the couches and chairs all the way around and be able to access the table is exactly what we want. So what we're trying to figure out now is how much of these bolts, obviously it's going to go the other way. This will be the bottom. So how many of the bolts, actually, can you help me flip it over so I can see the other side? I kind of like these straps too, but I just feel like for board games and stuff, we need like the flat part, but I wonder if we could inlay these. I'm gonna have to sit with this for a little bit and figure out. What do you guys think? Should we leave this with the straps on it, inlay them, or actually just not have them all together, because we could just take them off. So all that wood that you can see up there, that's the same wood. So you can see the saw blade marks on it. We ran it through the planer and sanded it and everything. All of these shelves, this is all made out of that wood. It will be planed down and sanded, so it'll look more like that than the gray way it looks right now. And then we also did our stairs in the same wood, only this wood wasn't quite as weathered as the wood that we used down in the pantry. And honestly, I actually like the more weathered look better, which is what this will probably look like, a little bit more rough hewn, which I absolutely love. I just put 2 bay leaves into the borscht and it's still cooking down. So this will cook down probably for another hour or so before we add the cabbage. I'm just gonna add some parsley right now too. And then after this, I'm gonna sit down and have a little bit of a break, and then we'll be back here to make some of that cinnamon twist bread in a little bit. Back in the kitchen. So now what we're gonna do is throw in all of this cabbage into the soup, and this bowl is very full, but this cabbage will cook down. So I think I can make it all fit. Just barely. And now on to some cinnamon bread. So this is the same recipe that I did in the last video for the chocolate hazelnut spread bread. And we all agreed that this as a cinnamon bread would be fantastic. And 2 cups of water, lukewarm. Two tablespoons of sugar. My house is super quiet right now because just about everyone is in town. So it is so quiet. So I'm just adding some salt and pepper to season the borscht. Maybe a teaspoon or so, maybe 2 teaspoons of salt and a teaspoon of pepper in that big pot of soup. Now we need our flour. You guys are gonna know your way around my kitchen as well as I do. May as well grab out the cornmeal. And we're 5 cups of flour. So I'm just gonna add the 4 cups and then add the 5th one once this is mixed in really well. And a teaspoon of salt. I'm just gonna get my kettle going so that I can make a cup of tea to have while this is rising. And our bowl with some olive oil to put our dough in to rise. We have a local tea shop that has the most delicious teas. And this one's called Earl Grey Cream. I am a hardcore Earl Grey drinker. That is my tea of choice. And this one I really, really, really like. I got this tea ball the other day with a little grizzly bear on it. Isn't that cute? I have some butter in a bowl here, and I'm just going to mix in some cinnamon, a whole bunch of cinnamon, and some brown sugar. That is looking good. I'd say that's very, very close to being done. And I'm just gonna mix this up, and this is going to be the paste, that's not a very appetizing word, the spread that I'm going to put on the bread. That looks delicious. So now we'll just sit this to the side, and then I'll spread that on the dough when it's ready. See that? So that's how it should look when it's well kneaded, so it pulls off the side of the bowl nicely. Nice and soft. And then cover all sides of it with the oil and cover it up and pop it in the oven. And then take a rest. Remember how red this was when I first put the beets in? So it looks a little bit orange now. I really like it super red. So what I do is once it's done cooking, I'm going to add some more grated beet in here, and that'll brighten it up and make it really red, and then turn the heat off, and then that red will stay. It's just the cooking down process that kind of makes it orangey like this. Tastes perfectly fine. I just really like the red color. And now I'll be able to add a little bit of milk to my tea. I like honey and milk in my tea. What's your favorite kind of tea to drink if you drink tea? I used to be a coffee drinker many, many, many years ago, and then I quit drinking coffee, switched to tea, and I've been a hardcore tea drinker ever since. Now I'm going to sit down and do a little bit more work on the cookbook while this is rising, and I'll see you again in an hour. Okay, we are back at it. The timer's just about to go off for, whoops, that's the wrong one, for the bread. And I've decided that I'm going to make 1 loaf this time, and I'm going to do a triple braid instead of the 2 twist one. So there it is. I am going to roll this out long ways this time, instead of across my counter, because I think it's going to be easier to work with it if it's like this. So you could absolutely add raisins to this too, if you like, or nuts. I am not a fan of raisins, so I'm not going to add raisins to this, but I was thinking of maybe adding some pecans to it. That sounds yummy. There's our cinnamon, brown sugar, butter. You know, I feel like this could be a little bit runnier. I'm just gonna melt this just a touch in the oven. So I was going to do 3 so that I could do a braid, but this is pretty thin. So I'll stick with the 2 and the twist like we did with the chocolate bread. One of the steps that I missed in the last one when I did the chocolate one is doing an egg wash on it. So I'm going to do that on this one. So this is just egg whisked up with a little bit of water. I have a feeling this is going to be ridiculously delicious. Look at that, it looks really pretty. I think it's going to taste delicious. Now we'll pop this in the oven at 350. Oh, actually, what am I doing? I'm way ahead of myself here. I'm just so excited about how pretty it looks that I got ahead of myself. No, we have to wait 20 minutes for it to rise again. So let's do that. Okay, so I'm just gonna cover this up with the same damp cloth and set my timer for 20 more minutes to let it rise. You know how I was talking the other day about how I don't like cooking? And that seems to surprise a lot of you because I spend so much time in the kitchen and I share a lot of that with you, especially recently here on YouTube. And, but it's true, I don't really love cooking. If I could choose to hire out one task in my life, it would be cooking. But something funny that's been happening over the last few weeks since I started sharing so much of my cooking on YouTube is that I'm starting to enjoy it more. And I don't know what that is. I don't know if it's just because it's fun, because I feel like when I'm in here and I'm filming and I'm talking to you and I'm sharing what I'm doing, it's more, I don't know, interesting and engaging for me. I'm not really sure what it is, but either way, it's probably a good thing since it's something that I have to do so much. Lots and lots of cooking goes on in this kitchen. That is for sure. Before I dig into this gorgeousness, I am going to have some of the borscht. The kids aren't going to be home for another hour still, so I will give it a try right now so that you guys can see. The borscht is all done. So the way that I like to eat mine is with a little bit of sour cream and some dill on top. Totally fine, plain, but the sour cream does add a creaminess to it that is really delicious. I like a lot of dill, so lots of dill for me. And then you can mix it in if you like, or just kind of spread it over the top. I could eat this every day. It's so good. If you don't have your own homemade soup stock, you can totally use better than bouillon and water. I have done that before to great success. The stock that I used, I think I forgot to add salt to it, so I did throw in a bouillon cube into the soup just to make it a little bit saltier and a little bit more flavorful, and now it is absolutely perfect. Now that I've had a few bites of the healthy stuff, let's cut into this beautiful looking bread. Looks pretty tasty. Let's try a piece. This is ridiculous. This is so good. If you like cinnamon buns, I highly recommend that you make yourself this. It is so good. I will link the recipe down below. Remember that that is for the hazelnut spread bread. And so instead of the hazelnut spread, you'll use butter, brown sugar, cinnamon, and nuts or raisins or whatever else you'd like to add to it. It's delicious. My word, that is so good. Okay, everyone, that is it for me today. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Bye, I'm gonna go eat this. See ya.